Good evening from New York. Everything you really need to know about how Republicans in Congress actually feel about the deficit and government spending and everything else they've been trying to terrify everyone about, having happened last Thursday, when every last Republican in the Senate, all 40 of them, having voted against a pay-as-you-go fiscal responsibility bill simply because the president had endorsed it. The president today unveiling his $3.8 trillion budget for fiscal year 2011, offering $30 billion in tax cuts for small businesses, $100 billion in job-creating measures, another $25 billion for Medicaid, public health care programs. The deficit for the budget year projected to reach a record $1.56 trillion. The president, who inherited $1.2 trillion of that from his predecessor, saying his priority, getting and keeping the economy on track.
If we had taken office during ordinary times, we would have started bringing down these deficits immediately. But 1 year ago, our country was in crisis. We were losing nearly 700,000 jobs each month. The economy was in a free fall, and the financial system was near collapse. Many feared another Great Depression. So we initiated a rescue, and that rescue was not without significant costs. It added to the deficit as well.
The president also citing the pay-as-you-go principle that Republicans claim to be for, but voted against.
That's also why we're restoring pay-as-you-go, a simple rule that says Congress can't spend a dime without cutting a dime elsewhere. This rule helped lead to the budget surpluses of the 1990s, and it's one of the most important steps we can take to restore fiscal discipline in Washington.
The Obama budget also proposing a change in the top tax rate, lower than where it was during most of the Reagan administration. This because of not renewing Bush-era tax cuts that led to the huge deficits we have now. It would also increase taxes on American companies that send jobs overseas, as well as on oil and gas companies that reported record profits during the Bush administration. We already know by staying in their seats at last week's State of the Union that Republican leaders are against taxing corporate America, only apparently small businesses and the middle class. House Minority Leader Boehner attacking this budget in a statement, quote, just 3 days after talking to House Republicans about the importance of fiscal responsibility, President Obama is submitting another budget that spends too much, taxes too much, and borrows too much. Meanwhile, Minority Whip Eric Cantor missing the part that spells out the $30 billion in tax cuts for the small businesses, falsely claiming, quote, small businesses and job creators simply cannot afford the massive Obama tax increases included in this budget and be expected to hire more workers. Let's turn now to our own Howard Kleinman, senior Washington correspondent for Newsweek magazine and the author of The 13 American Arguments. Howard, good evening.
Hi, Keith.
Did Friday's question time with the House Republicans pay off to any degree in that, as the president put it himself this afternoon, I announced the budget and no one threw rotten eggs?
Well, it paid off in two ways. First, for the country, because as I say in the book, arguing is the essence of who we are as a country. It's how we move forward. But you need two people in the argument. And in recent months, the Republicans have just said no and then disappeared. I think the president really helped himself politically and may help the process along by highlighting the Republicans and asking them to participate by kind of backing in the corner to try to participate. Whether they actually do or not now is, of course, the question.
Voting against pay-as-you-go last week, decrying tax cuts for small businesses, how do the Republicans fight these things that supposedly they were for until the president said those were good ideas?
Well, I think that's a very good question. But first you have to make them visible before you can hold them to account. And I think, again, that's what the president was doing by inviting himself into the Republican meeting on Friday. The most obvious and outrageous recent example of the Republicans saying one thing about deficit reduction and doing another, I think, was the Deficit Commission. I think that's an idea whose time has come in Washington. It's kind of like the base closing commission when things become so politically sclerotic on the Hill that you need some outside force to decide things. That would be a much stronger idea if it were a legislative thing, if it were a law, like the base closing commission. And Judd Gregg, the Republican of whom there's no humor in terms of deficit reduction, was really strongly behind that, as was Kent Conrad. A lot of Republicans were for it, including Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader. Then he turns on a dime, McConnell does, as do some other Republicans, because they realized the thing might pass. And they didn't dare let it pass because that would give Barack Obama the political upper hand on deficit reduction.
Did Congressman Jeb, don't call me Jim, Hensarling, really suggest with Chris this afternoon on Hardball that the solution to the deficit is cut Social Security benefits to everybody now under the age of 55 and privatize Social Security, which was, of course, the Bush plan from 5 years ago that even most Republicans wouldn't get next to with a 10-foot pole?
No, they probably wouldn't, but I thought that was brave of him. And by the way, the notion that the rest of the budget is non-discretionary, meaning that you can't touch it, is baloney. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, they're contracts with the future, but it's not like they can't be revisited. That's what the last great commission on this in the early 80s did, to raise the retirement age, to raise taxes somewhat, to put Social Security on solid footing. Let everybody come forth with ideas. I think Hensarling deserves credit on hardball for putting something on the table, which most Republicans are completely afraid to do.
Well, privatizing, discussing the possibility of reduced benefits for us young guys is one thing, but just
Speak
like
for yourself.
Well, I just like the idea that in some contexts we're young guys, but privatizing it, I mean, why not just say let's go bet it in Vegas? I mean, that's not
all right.
That's not realistic, is it?
Probably not, but I want to give the guy credit for saying something. But no, it's not, because look, just look at the stock market over the last couple of years. Do we really want, especially without reforms of the financial industry, do we want to bet the whole future of the American retirement system on a stock market that many people think isn't properly regulated to begin with? Obviously, the answer to that is no.
Well, he can blame that. That part of it he can blame on Jim Hensarling, who, as we discovered, is the president of a rodeo in Washington State. Howard Feynman of MSNBC Newsweek, who has nothing to do with the rodeo. Great thanks.
Thank you, Keith.